Hi there, and welcome to Screech Bob-Omb Commentaries. My name is David Baron von Fabulous Lark. My co-commentator is...
Callum, the good doctor, Young.
And today we're doing something a bit different from our usual Keyforge Premier League commentaries, and instead we're going to be doing the Keyforge Online Team event, or KOTE, as it's known. This was in fact the event that Team Screech was first formed to compete in, so an event very close to our hearts. And Callum, do you want to tell us the two teams that we're going to be commentating on today?
Yes, so today we're looking at Hamburg Atlanteans 3 out of Hamburg, Germany, a team that you see a lot in these various big online Keyforge events, and Team Exalted B Plus out of Southampton, UK, who contain our glorious KOTE organisers.
Yeah, I want to say a little thank you as well to the organiser of KOTE for letting us commentate on them. It's much appreciated.
So today we have this deck being played by Mahaaxx, which is a tie deck, so I don't know precisely what it's called, but we ran it through Google Translate several times and got several different answers, including "It's a bad guy," said Robinson, and "The villainous teacher, Robinson."
And
So,
AR is a bad guy, says Robinson, as another
so
option.
it is a deck of some description, but we don't know precisely what it's called. However, the first thing we wanted to talk about is Curiosaurus,
Yes.
which jumped out of the Saurians, because this is a Curiosaurus deck. And it is a very good Curiosaurus deck.
This is a card that me and the good doctor differ on quite significantly, because I am a big fan of Curiosaurus. I think it's a really interesting card. I think it's a really cool card, and I think it does really cool things in a deck. I think it's got a bad rap because it's quite hard to play on the Crucible, because dealing with all the triggers it generates is quite confusing. But I think playing it in IRL, it's a lot simpler and it's just a really powerful, cool card.
Yeah, so Bennett, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is much more your area than mine, but you're looking at cards that will put one ember on a multitude of different creatures, right?
Exactly. Yes.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And you have that in spades.
You
have Amphora Captura.
Yeah, so Amphora Captura is a rare, so let's go over it. I think you probably would have seen this. It's quite a popular rare, but it enhances with 2 Ember, 2 damage, and 2 draw icons, which is pretty nice. And when resolving a bonus icon, you may choose to resolve it as a capture bonus icon instead.
So you can just capture a whole lot of Ember really easily.
Yeah, just be capturing to your heart's content.
Double Citizen Shrix, which you'll play a card, exalt, steal an Ember. So there'll be plenty of Ember on those.
Comes in with an Ember on it, ready, and it's going to be stolen.
You've got a Consul Primus, so you can be moving Ember around.
Dark Centurion, moving Ember off a creature if you've got more than one, and warding that creature.
Got Spoils of Battle, just going to capture a whole huge amount.
Yep, Ancient Power to ward things with Ember on them.
Yeah, Perfectus Ludo, just to get any Ember above 1 off.
Also, if, say, your Curiosaurus gets destroyed or purged by an effect, play Perfectus Ludo, get rid of the Ember, still isn't going back to your opponent.
Yeah, and finally, the real hammer blow, Senator Brachus.
Oh, the big lad.
So
Senator
all
Brachus.
Of that Ember that's bouncing around on your creatures, you'll be able to spend for keys.
As if it were in your table. Yeah, so the thing with this is like I had to say perfect. I'd say Beware the Ides is not the best card, but near as you're going to get to perfect Saurian for mass mutation. In terms of you've got so many ways to capture, you've got ways to protect your Ember, you've got ways to spend the Ember on your creatures. This is just exactly what you want to see when you crack open a mass mutation Saurian.
And an Ancient Power, just to make sure they all live longer.
Exactly. It's so good. If we look at the other two houses now, they are good, and I think they are they pale in comparison to the Saurians, because the Saurians are so powerful, but they're still nothing to sniff at. You know, looking at this, you've got I think you said it in our previous discussions before we recorded, the greatest hits of mass mutation discs.
So like double gateway, board wipes are always good. Gleeful Mayhem, pretty handy. Mark of Dis, Mind Fires, just sort of destruction and disruption you're getting. And also then Infernus is always very powerful. An Essence Scale, potentially good in the Dis, but also comboing with the Curiosaurus.
Indeed.
If you want to dump Ember off your creatures and put it on theirs.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about the Gateway to Dis, is that you can control when a board clear happens. So say you've got a lot of creatures with 1 Ember on them, and you're ready to just clear the board, move all that Ember to your opponent's largest creature. Then if your opponent's largest creature is destroyed, and send that Ember back your way into your pool, you can do that with the gateway to Dis, and it's real nice.
Yeah. And then Logos is just a bunch of useful Logos tools. So double Lethal Logica, good. Double Opposition Research, good. Double QMEX, good. Including a Capture Enhanced QMEX,
So
just
good.
for added Curiosaurus nonsense.
Yep. And Amphora Capturer nonsense as well. Just,
Yeah.
You've also got Academy Training, which is a good card and maybe less useful in this, just because you're probably not going to be wanting to have any of your Saurians not in Saurian for your Saurian turns. And similarly, Dis, less helpful having things in Logos. You quite happy to
Yeah,
have them
I
in
think
Dis.
this is not the best Academy Training deck.
But Academy Training, if you control this creature, it belongs to House Logos instead of its original house. So as we're saying, it means that if you play on a Saurian creature, it is a Logos creature. It is no longer a Saurian creature. It's not like others where it then belongs to both houses. But Reap Draw a card, still a very nice ability to have. And to be honest, put it on one of your Logos creatures. Nothing saying you can't.
Yeah. So this is going to focus around the Saurians and Curiosaurus, with just sort of useful cycling and disruption from Logos and Dis playing their traditional role.
Yeah, you're going to be wanting getting especially the Amphora Capture out as soon as possible, just to start capturing. And then once you get the Curiosaurus out, that's when you can make that big, just kind of trap the person and saying, you can't leave this Ember on my creatures because Senator Brachus will use it. You can't kill my creatures because the Ember will go back onto your creatures. And even if you get rid of my Curiosaurus, you still can't kill my creature because the Ember will just go to the Ember pool. It's just a real cage of sadness you're putting your opponent in, and I'm super excited about it.
A cage of sadness. Welcome to Saurians, everybody. Speaking of, let's look at some classic Worlds Collide Saurians.
Yep, so this is One-Handed Philippa of the Hippodrome,
being played by NoveltyBoy from Team Exalted B+.
Mm-hmm. Now, this deck is a very strong deck, and in a lot of matchups, I think this deck would be excellent. I think it's going to really struggle here, though, unfortunately.
So the game plan of this deck looks like you sort of build this chunky Saurian board and ward it up with some Trisaurian Legionaries, and then keep capturing huge amounts of the Ember with the CSIs and the Tribute until they fall into either the Graft, of which there is two, or the TMTP and Shadows.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's a pretty solid game plan most of the time.
It is, except for the fact that I'm going to call it Robinson because we can't speak Thai, and we know Robinson is definitely in that translation.
Yep.
Doesn't really need to have Ember in its pool all that often. If you've got the Brachus down, you can just be like, right, well, I'm going to forge with the Ember on my creatures, and there's not a lot that your opponent can do about it.
Yeah, so we've got to think, how able is it to remove key Saurian creatures or artifacts? No artifact control.
Nope.
So they're just sticking.
That Curiosaurus staying around, as is that Amphora Capturer.
Amphora on the Essence scale. Looking at creature control, you have an Axiom of Grisk, normally good for a board wipe, but probably not in a deck that will put Ember on most of its creatures as a strategy.
And quite a few of its creatures come with Ember on them as well, and Exalt when they come in. So
yeah, so it's not going to get rid of a Shrix,
no,
for example.
And then outside of that, the creature control it's mostly spot removal and
not that great spot removal either.
At that, no. So you've got a Scowly Caper.
Just prevent them from building a board might be handy.
Yeah, you've got Positron
Bolt.
Positron Bolt doing 3 and only 2 a thing on the flank, and you've got to think they're not going to leave anything big on the flank because you have a Chimera Eclipse. So unless you can insulate that Brachus with something, you're not putting that anywhere near a flank, I would imagine.
Yeah, and that could be a key thing because obviously I am not as good as some of the people we're going to see today and have been caught out by that many times. So it's very easy to forget and just not take that into account. But yeah, so I think it's just going to struggle to get rid of key targets in a way that's going to be good for Robinson and bad for Philippa.
Yeah, the only thing that I think may be able to kind of put a bit of a spanner in the works is you do see 2 city-state interests in the deck, and you also see an Axiom of Grisk there, which is often a fun combo that I like to call the Miami.
How did you start calling it the Miami? Do tell.
Well, what I would do is I would play the city-state interest and capture a lot of Ember on a lot of creatures. Then I would ask the person if they've ever been to Miami, Oh no, I'd asked that before I played the CSI, and then I'd say because there's about to be a CSI, and then I'd play CSI and play Action with Risk. People found it fun, I'm told.
That's a word for it.
Callum didn't find it fun, but everyone else did.
It's happened to me too many times for it to be funny anymore. I have been to Miami too often.
Yeah.
So yeah, the double CSI could be really big with the Curiosaurus.
Yes.
Is the thing.
But it's the problem of I can't see Robinson needing to have much Ember in his pool very often. And at that point, the CSI is limited. Also, with 2 gateway to disses, quite easy to just stop Philippa having anything on the board.
Yeah, so you don't have the wide enough board to keep that up. Because you've got some wards, but there's only 17 creatures.
Yeah. And a lot of them are quite small. You know, you've got like some 1 powers in your shadows. You've got a Mac the Knife, which one of my favorite cards actually, Elusive. You may use Mac the Knife if it belongs to the active house. Deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, gain 1. Really cool card, but I think just very easy to kill for Robinson.
Yeah, 73 is very low effective power total for a deck that has Saurians in, which does indicate that A, the Saurians aren't that big, and also the rest of the deck is teeny tiny shadows and logos creatures.
Yeah, the other thing you can maybe do is that you do have the 2 tributes, and you have an Imperial Scutum. So you can potentially put a lot of Ember on one of your creatures and have that Imperial Scutum. There's no bounce effect in Robinson. The only way that it can deal with things is by destroying them. So you can potentially get rid of some Ember that way.
Yeah, especially if they're clearly stacking up. So you probably want to put it on the Paraguardian, right? Because that's going to be the creature that will most likely stack up that Curiosaurus Ember.
Yeah, and you can get that, say, behind a Taunt as well in the Terrestrial Legionary. Keep it warded. Keep the Legionaries warded with the Paraguardian's effect. You know, it's the potential to kind of stall, but I think the thing with this deck seems to be that the win condition is taking a lot of Ember at once with your graphs, which are too much to protect, and Robinson's going to be so good at stopping that happening.
Yeah, so you think the game comes down to a Bracca's turn at some point where they drop it, capture Ember, hit the Ancient Power.
Yeah, I think so.
And just can't fight its way through some wards. Yeah. Maybe. We'll see. And it's going to be
I think we'll just have a quick... We talked a lot about the Saurian but we'll have a look at the logos and the shadows as well quickly. So you've got 2-dimensional graphs, which again normally would be great and a real concern, but this deck weaker. Tautau Vapors, really useful just for cycling through your deck.
Very good card.
Memory Chip as well, just archiving.
It's a lot of like good cycling logos. Dr. Millie.
Exactly.
Archive 2 or 3 cards.
Prescription Grammar Bot, which is not a great card. I'm just gonna say it. I normally try to be positive and be like, yeah, but for a rare,
thematically, I'm a big fan of Prescriptive Grammar Bot. It amuses me that it has the ability to enrage creatures. I like the joke, split 2 infinitives and call me in the morning. That's solid grammar humor. But yeah, it's not great.
No, and I don't think it's going to be doing that much in this matchup. But yeah, I think there's a potential in this matchup to have a really big turn where if you can get the Bracchus, this game really opens up and becomes more interesting. My concern would be that I can't see the pilot of Robinson playing that Bracchus in a situation where that's likely to happen. I feel like you're not playing that Bracchus until you are certain you can play it and have it safe and not have anything happen to it. I think the problem is that Philippa just doesn't have enough ways to deal with it.
Yeah, at some point there's going to be a warded Bracchus that causes a huge swing in the game.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll find out.
We will indeed. Okay. And on to the game.
Alrighty.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the game portion of the episode. We have NoveltyBoy on the top of the screen playing one-handed Philippa of the Hippodrome, and we have Mahaaxx on the bottom of the screen playing what can be loosely translated to "It's a bad guy," says Robinson.
We're going to call it Robinson because there are several Google Translate versions of the Thai name, and we don't know which one is correct.
Yep, so we'll call the top one Philippa or Novelty. It'll probably exchange between the two.
It's Dino Fight Night, everybody.
It is. We're gonna got Saurians to the left, Saurians to the right. And here we're gonna be stuck in the middle with you.
Also a Saurian.
Indeed.
There's
some elves, there's some demons, there's some robots in there. You know.
We should probably start the game, so I'm not sure where this bit is going. Really.
Oh no, we have started the game. There's just a bit of a flim flam. I probably should have skipped the brief chat at the start from the recording. But yeah, as we see here, the game is now starting. Unfortunately, we couldn't get spec hands for this one. I should have clarified with the players that that's kind of what we'd like to do, but I forgot to. It's on me. And we just thought we'd go. But we'd already started the game. I feel like for the integrity of the competition, I couldn't ask them then to restart. You know, they'd already looked at hands. We'd already had a mulligan. It seemed silly, so we're just going to go with the mystery this time.
Yes. Wild guessing as to what's in people's hands, exactly. Which is always fun.
It is. I think there's benefits to both sides. There's the spec hands. This means you can kind of like see what's coming and you can theorize more about what you do. But also in this case, we get more surprised by the players. There's more of an that happened to it.
Yes, as if you're watching a Keyforge game in real life.
Yes.
As for those of you who don't know, Keyforge is also a game that exists in card form and played in a paper over the table fashion.
Man, that's wild. Some people may have only ever probably more games on the Crucible than I've played in IRL Keyforge now.
If you don't get that joke, congratulations on making it through a bad time and looking back on this as a piece of bizarre legacy media. Mac the Knife. Strong start.
One of my favourite cards, one of my first ever decks, had a Mac the Knife. I'm a big fan of it. It's a great card. It's elusive, 3 power, and action. You can deal damage to a creature, and if that creature dies, gain 1.
And can be used as
Curiosaurus, though, straight off the bat.
Boom.
No hanging around, no waiting around. Just like, no, we're Curioing, we're Saurusing, and Mac the Knife is stabbed in the back 23 times with Beware the Ides.
Another great card, super thematic. And both Ludos, so feel free to stack however much Ember you want on your cards.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all going to be going onto either in the common pool or onto your opponent's creatures. So Curiosaurus is an interesting card. It's a card that I think a lot of people dislike in the game. I'm quite a big fan of it. I think there's a general kind of misunderstanding of how to play it. So hopefully we'll be able to see kind of like how it works in this game, and I'm going to be able to like kind of set some preconceptions we have about Curiosaurus to rest, and how it's actually a really cool and good card.
I have no further comment at this time.
Very diplomatic, Callum. Thank you.
Bit of a slow start from NoveltyBoy, unfortunately.
Yeah. So your Turtle Vapors and Sanitation Engineer, not ideal, but getting those cards out, getting a bit of archiving, getting a bit of filtering of the deck. We're going to see another Saurian turn, though, from Mahaaxx. And just a cheeky double reap with the Ludo twins. We're going to see Saurian from NoveltyBoy here.
Gonna drop a few big boys of their own.
It's an early CSI.
That is very early.
We have the Axiom of Grisk here, so gonna destroy all of Mahaaxx's creatures, and there's some quite useful ones in there. The Consul Primus, the Dark Centurion, both very useful with the Curiosaurus down.
That's a good value of an Axiom there.
Yeah, and especially I think it's one of those ones you might as well do it now, because the later you leave it, the more Ember there's going to be on Mahaaxx's creatures.
Yeah.
You may as well just be like, right, this is the good time to use it. And I think that's fair play from NoveltyBoy there.
2 CSIs in Philippa as well, so you got one to spare later for a big capture turn.
Indeed. And we are going to see the Brabble hit the Sanitation Engineer just to clear off that cheeky ward it had there. Get out of here, ward. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
I am not going to do one-upmanship of the accents that were going to happen there. I feel like we may get some complaints from Italian Americans if we're not careful.
I was not entirely clear that's what I thought I was doing, so that probably indicates the general quality of the accent.
But we're going to see the Brabble come down. Of course, Brabble destroy it. If your opponent destroys it, they lose 3 if it's on their turn. If you destroy it on your turn, they lose 1. And putting a capture icon onto the Brabble, this is actually one of my favorite plays to do. It really kind of makes it harder for the opponent because they're like, well, if I want to get that Ember back, I have to kill the Brabble. Oh, the Brabble is immediately killed by a Gleeful Mayhem, though, so ignore me. And we see the Bonesaw coming out, and it is going to kill the Sanitation Engineer. To get that off the field, get that Ember back into Mahaaxx's pool, and clear the board at the end here.
Well, one of them went to the. Something happened with Curiosaurus.
So yeah, actually, what happened there was, and that's the Brabble explodes. It's even better for a Mahaaxx. There is that the Ember icon on the Brabble moved to the Sanitation Engineer. Then when the Bonesaw fought the Sanitation Engineer, one of the Ember on the Sanitation Engineer moved back onto the Bonesaw, then back into NoveltyBoy's pool. The other went straight into Mahaaxx's pool.
Well, actually, it didn't because of the Scutum.
Oh, because of the Scutum. No, it would have done. Yes, sorry.
Although they didn't
actually, no. That's so. Interestingly, one of the Ember from the Sanitation Engineer would have still gone into Mahaaxx's pool because the Curiosaurus effect still happens. It's just the second Ember. Oh no, you're right. You're right. No, so
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Yeah, you are correct. So one of the Ember went onto Bonesaw, the other Ember went back to the common supply. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
But then NoveltyBoy got it because it was on the Bonesaw when it died?
He did, yeah. So NoveltyBoy was left with one Ember at the end of that pool turn, and that's the reason why.
Anyway, NoveltyBoy playing a much simpler play for Shadow Creature's turn. And that's a scary looking board. That is intimidating.
It is, yeah. And you've got the
Seal.
Yeah, you got the Q-Mex out with the standard system. Makes it a lot less scary. And again, you saw the Q-Mex there flipped the Ember onto another one of the. So what happened there was the Q-Mex flipped the Ember onto one of the NoveltyBoy's most powerful creature. The Curiosaurus effect then triggered on NoveltyBoy's most powerful creature, flipping it back onto the Q-Mex. The Q-Mex's destroy condition had already happened, which is why the Ember then went back to NoveltyBoy's pool. This is, I think, one of the kind of weaknesses of Curiosaurus on the Crucible and makes it harder to play, is that if this were an IRL Keyforge, you could have said, okay, I'm going to activate the destroyed effects on my opponent's creatures first, allowing that not to happen. I think that's how you can do it. I'm not a Keyforge judge. I may be wrong in that, but that's, as far as I understand, how Curiosaurus works. I'll try not to just make this episode entirely about me explaining Curiosaurus, though, as we do see Javinder on the board and a particular ground bot coming down with a Thorium Plasmate. Again, not a great turn. Only 2 cards, though, coming out from NoveltyBoy.
Yeah, neither of them feels like they've had super strong draws so far. It's been a lot of sort of smaller 1 or 2 card turns.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing that's going to really benefit Mahaaxx, though, in a sense, because you're just seeing him kind of play some things with Ember on. He's now playing out a Citizen Shrix and another Citizen Shrix, which is a very good play because, again, the 1 Ember on these cards, if they get destroyed, is going to go onto NoveltyBoy's creatures. And just kind of slowly building up Ember. Like, I think the slow start definitely benefits Mahaaxx more than it benefits NoveltyBoy here.
Yeah, especially in NoveltyBoy's deck that looks like it does need a decent sized board to get those big captures off with the CSIs and the tribute. Exactly. It's just sort of not getting that right now.
I've got to think maybe that's strategically what NoveltyBoy is doing there, like kind of like with the turn, like with the opposition research. Perhaps. He was kind of like, well, we do see an interdimensional graph though for a NoveltyBoy here with 9 in Mahaaxx's pool, so he's going to let him forge, but he's going to say, I'll have 3 of those Ember. Thank you very much when you do.
And that extra Ember there coming from Curiosaurus shenanigans.
Yeah, exactly. He did. So he kind of knew that the Ember was going to get a bounce between them and then go back to Mahaaxx, and then was going to end up being us to be taken by an interdimensional graph, which is very smart play from NoveltyBoy. Very nice there.
Not the best graph in the world. We're talking about in the deck chat that you would think want to get a really big one following, like a big tribute or a CSI. 3 is pretty solid.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. But yeah. I mean, bear in mind that you still got this too much to protect in the deck, though. You still got, I think, another interdimensional graph.
And there's a second graft as well.
So it's like, I think when you've got kind of those doubles of that kind of effect, you can afford to take 3 off it, and 3 is still nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, I was going to say, nothing to sneeze at all. 3 is a decent graft.
No. But we are going to see presumably quite a big Logos turn here because we picked up the archives, seeing a Munchling come out. We're seeing this QMEX come out.
QMEX with a capture on it in a Curiosaurus deck is absolutely brutal.
It's very nice. Yeah, I've got a similar deck where I've got a Relentless Creeper with a Ember Icon in an Amphora and Curiosaurus deck, and oh boy, that is spicy. The only thing here is, though, you are playing with a Curiosaurus when your opponent has an empty board, which, against some decks, this could be a problem, because one of the best ways to defend against a Curiosaurus is if you don't have any creatures on your side of the board, Curiosaurus does nothing. It just acts like normal capture.
So things like Carpet Flotsam.
Yeah.
Secret Weapon.
We do see Effervescent Principle, though, going to Mahaaxx's hand. So this is significant that both Mahaaxx obviously has this card, but NoveltyBoy now knows that Mahaaxx has this card. And you've got to think that he's going to have to be wary of that with whatever he's playing.
And it lost 5 or 6 cards to do that, including Ancient Power, Infernus, and Amphora Captura, all of which you think you'd be wanting to see.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely the Ancient Power. That could be really good in a deck with this amount of capture. Amphora Capture, exactly the same. Like being able to just capture on so many different creatures in so many different ways can be brutal. We see the Scowly Caper come down here for NoveltyBoy. A card that, if you're ever playing with this, remember, it is all houses. That's something I always forget and have many times goofed hard and missed that with the Scowly Caper and lost out on a lot of Ember and fights. And we're just going to see a Mug there taking that Ember off the Citizen Tricks. I maybe wouldn't have taken it off the Citizen Tricks there. I maybe would have taken it off the Munchling, purely because Citizen Tricks is going to get more Ember on it and can still kind of take advantage of that Curiosaurus, whereas it's harder to get it on Munchling.
I think you kind of want to try and kill that off if possible. It is very good.
True. And we're going to see the Effervescent Principle is going to be used here just to knock NoveltyBoy off check.
Only for 2. I don't know if you held
that. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, you are right. Yeah. It's 5 Ember, only for 2. I guess maybe Mahaaxx was wanting to play it when he's got less Ember and doesn't want to save it. And with the amount of capture and steal and chipping away of Ember you can do with Mahaaxx's deck, maybe he's just like, look, I don't need this to be like a big Effervescent Principle. I can just kind of take a little bit off here, make my position a bit safer. And I can understand the turn there.
Yeah, although NoveltyBoy is starting to really look like they've got a problem here because obviously we've been through the Axiom. There's not a huge amount of creature control elsewhere in the deck, other than Scowly Caper, which is on the board.
Yeah.
And you're already looking at 6 creatures to 1.
Indeed, you are, yeah.
In a deck that clearly loves to have them. And when your strategy, I think as we talked about, is dependent on these big Saurians.
Exactly. We are going to see the Mutagenic Serum come down for Mahaaxx as well. You've got 3 mutants on the board there, all of which you're quite happy to be using with that Mutagenic Serum. And we are going to see the Saurians come out from NoveltyBoy. Big Paraguardian there.
Okay, big dino time.
And we see the Tribute. As we put 5 on Paraguardian, stop maximum fortune, get the ward, get it behind the Tri-Serum needs. Now this could be a really big play for NoveltyBoy, is you kind of got that Ember, you've got it protected, you've got it harder to get rid of.
And that's probably where all of your Curiosaurus Ember is now going to go.
Yeah, that is the problem, is that because Tribute targets your most powerful creature, it means that all of the Ember from any of your opponent's creatures dying with capture on is also going to go onto Paraguardian. So you're going to get you're going to get less benefit from that. I mean, there's an argument maybe you should have played, say, a Draco Praco first and Tribute onto that, just to kind of spread around where the Ember's going to go. But I can understand why he's kind of put it on the Paraguardian in the idea that it's easy to protect.
Yeah, and if you assume there's going to be a lot of Ember stacking up on the Paraguardian anyway, you kind of want it behind the taunt and warded. Okay. So Mutagenic Serum goes off. Yeah, good Mutagenic Serum.
And it's in a dis turn as well, we've got here. So you're going to see a Reap with the Sacrobot.
Do you know what could be quite big here? Is multiple board wipes, because there's 2 gateways. I don't think we've seen either of them yet.
Ah, that is true. And you've still got the ward on that Paraguardian. So you've got to find a way to like dig through that Tri-Serum Legionary. Oh, you see the marker. So the Mark of Dis hitting that Paragon to knock off the ward. If he does have a gateway here, this could be very big now.
Could be brutal.
Interesting interaction here. You've got the Scowly Caper and the Essence Scale, which could be a really good way of just being able to kill the Scowly Caper and choose whichever creature you want, because Scowly Caper is all houses. Or is it the active house?
Can be used as if it belonged to any house.
Okay, so you could only use it as Dis then, as a Scowly Caper, right? It's not because I think the
well, no, because it's a but it's a Shadows creature. But so I think if you sacrificed it, it works as Shadows creature. I'm not sure.
Oh, would it? I think, but isn't it? If you can read the card text out, Callum.
Can be used as if it belonged to any house.
So I think it would be used. I think under the Crucible, it would be used as if it's Dis because it's currently being used in a Dis turn. But
it doesn't seem right to me. Either way.
I feel like in IRL, though, you could make the case that you could use that as any house when using an Essence Scale, though.
But it's as if it belonged to. It's not that it actually does.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like,
I don't think we're going to be finding out at this juncture.
No, probably not. But we're seeing some a Reap from the Citizen Tricks here, getting an Ember on that as well, and really building towards potentially a very large Curiosaurus turn if we do see a board clear here.
Yeah, especially as they're marked into Saurians, so you know you're free from a Graft or a TMTP.
Yeah, and you've got an interesting interaction here as well, where because the Sacrobot doesn't have any Ember on currently, when you activate the Curiosaurus, one is going to go onto the Sacrobot and then move back onto another one of NoveltyBoy's creatures, in this case the Paraguardian as well. And we see, we're going to see the Sacrobot being used again to Reap.
Also just puts the QMX back in the archives.
Yep, discards the Imp Spectre. Yeah, just...
discards the Imp Spectre.
Yep, and there we do see the Gateway.
There's the Gateway. Oof. So with that Mark of Dis, this could be game over.
It could, because you can't use that too much to protect, is the thing. All that graft. So he's safely got this pile of Ember coming to him. And I think it's... So... 8 onto the Paraguardian. I think there should be 8 coming to Mahaaxx and 2 coming to NoveltyBoy by my calculations. I think if my Curiosaurus calculations are correct, I think that's how that should work. No, it was 7 and 3. Okay, Curiosaurus even baffles me sometimes.
Oh, for now an
Infernus with an Ember Pip as well, just
just for the real pip in the teeth. Well, this could be the game.
That's pretty damning. I mean, the Mark of Dis is what really crushed that.
Yeah, I would struggle to see it come back from this.
Because you've got to think NoveltyBoy is holding either a Too Much to Protect or a Graft at this point with only 10 cards left in the deck. Has been kind of waiting for this like big Curiosaurus kind of flipping to happen.
Mark of Dis, very strong card. Possibly one of the best in the set and the game.
I mean, not in the game, because Control the Weak's better.
One of the best, though. I think they're both up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Control the Weak is better.
But we are going to see, we're going to see this quite sad. Oh, that's a really sad City State interest.
Oof.
That is.
City State for 1.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got the Too Much to Protect. Has he got anything else in Logos that could really save him here?
The problem is that even with the TMTP, he's going to struggle to get him off 6.
Yeah, so we've seen the Hugger Mugger, I think.
Yeah.
Does he have any other ways of stealing in Shadows?
I don't think there is out of hand. It's like a Skeleton Key, it's a Yancey Gang, but I don't think there's anything else. So that could be the end.
It could be curtains, as they say.
There's another tribute knocking about that might stall a little bit longer.
Tribute could be enough with 9 on in the pile, assuming Mahaaxx doesn't get to 11 then. No, assuming Mahaaxx doesn't get to 10 this term, which actually seems quite likely.
Yeah,
Tribute would be enough.
Might be it.
But even then, NoveltyBoy's got a mountain to climb from there. He's 2 keys to nothing down, 3 Ember. To see Logos pick up that archive.
Just another QMX for the capture.
Yeah, QMX for the capture. Why not?
I mean, 2 QMX, I think it is.
Yeah. But only 1 with the capture.
Yes.
Which means we were incorrect in our actual deck analysis where we guessed it had an Ember icon, it had a Capture icon, which to be honest is worse in this deck. So
Yep, it's much stronger.
yeah. Oh, you can get Academy training on the Infernus as well. Probably gonna get a nice Reap there. Just to draw a card. Discards the Professor Principal.
Yeah, probably.
Seems sensible.
Don't massively think you need that.
But I think with this Infernus Reap, I think that might be the game because, as we've said, short of that tribute, I don't think really NoveltyBoy has much Ember control outside of that.
No, nothing that can quite do it. TMTP won't get you there unless we've missed something.
No. And yeah, we are going to see that Reap.
Mark of Dis just shutting down Philippa's whole strategy.
I mean, I think that's it's the kind of thing where like it's difficult Mark of Dis because there's arguments to kind of like the some people say, oh, Mark of Dis isn't a very skillful card, but I mean, I think the thing is though when used in a situation like that and you don't know how long Mahaaxx has been holding that, I've been kind of waiting, he'd been like holding that ready to do that big Curiosaurus turn and knowing this was a possibility, you know, I think there's a degree of, I think he's probably holding on to that Dis turn, waiting, knowing he had the Gateway to Dis, knowing he had the Mark of Dis, and knowing, okay, I can set this up to get a lot of Ember here in a turn, destroy everything, and yeah, we do see the final Keyforge there with the graft.
And graft in hand. Could have grafted them for 10 Ember or something.
Yeah, he could have done. Yeah. And that's gotta be brutal to have happen.
Yeah, this is one of the things about Mark of Dis, it just sort of shuts down the game so much.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, okay, well, I'll sit here and you can play Keyforge.
Mm-hmm. I know I think I'm more okay with it than you are. I think there's certain decks that it affects a lot more in terms of like if you're playing a much more board focused deck, you're probably less affected by Mark of Dis than you would. But it's also the thing of like Gateway to Dis means that even in a board focused deck you can get really screwed over by Mark of Dis. And it's the trouble with this is it has so many ways of kind of returning your creature to hand or destroying your creature with like things like Implosion or Gleeful Mayhem or Gateway to Dis. The Mark of Dis becomes so much more impactful in Dis because it has so many ways of kind of disrupting you.
And it does particularly affect decks like Philippa that rely on sort of specifically timed big plays, like the double graft and the TMTP.
Exactly.
It becomes very easy to get around what you're doing, which is foreseeable.
Yeah. But very well played by Mahaaxx there.
Oh yeah, not to take anything away from him.
You know, very well played by NoveltyBoy. I think, you know, he got unlucky with the CSIs coming out when they did. Really nice early play with the Axiom of Grisk. Good play with the graft early on too. You know, take nothing away from it. He kind of fought gamely against what is a very strong deck from Mahaaxx. And a deck that I would dearly love to own. But I don't think he'll be selling it to me anytime soon, judging by this performance with it.
Also, given they have, given this is a tie deck and their team is located in Hamburg, I think they've sought this one out.
No, I'm pretty sure they must have just found it somewhere, you know, casually. I would think it's just like a random pull. They're like, oh, it's pretty good.
Misprinted tie deck in a box.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, thank you very much for listening. I have been David Baron von Fabulous Lark.
I've been Callum the Good Doctor Young.
We've been Team Screech Bob-Omb commentaries, and thank you very much for listening. Hope to see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.